Okay, guys, welcome to the second part of the lesson. Something really short. So we're going to the slide number 6, and you're going to find what we find over here of about notions of discourse. So certain particular details that are really important or components about the discourse. So first of all, that it is a social practice. Uh, this seems to be pretty evident, but well, it is important to remark it or to highlight it as we mentioned at the beginning. It's common that people believe that it is in a some sort of an unidimensional process, right? So it is a social practice. It involves people. It involves the complexity of people. It involves different opinions, beliefs, thoughts, ideas, as we have already mentioned in the previous video. Um, and well, it involves everything that has to do with people interaction. We're going to discuss that a little bit deeper in the near future, but take that social connotation of the discourse as something pretty important. Uh, Now, the second component says that, or the second notion, that it is a form of interaction, one more time highlighting the part of exchange, based on contextualized linguistic use, either written or oral. So, we discuss one more time the importance of the orality and the written discourse almost at the same level, right? Like they are equally important on the discursive part. And we are going to have a contextualized linguistic use. What is that? That depending on the context that we are involved in, a certain word, a certain attitude, a certain phrase, a certain concept, vocabulary may mean something completely different, right? So that is why discourse is not an isolated thing. As it is social, it is determined by the interactions, beliefs, and everything else that I have mentioned before of people. So it's very important that a discourse in a particular context may mean a particular thing, and if you take it to another one, yes, it may change its meaning. Now, this part that I'm going to explain right now is quite important because actually it's like the core of understanding some of the components of the discourse, um, and also important because of the assignment number 1 that we're going to post just right away after this video. So that third notion says, speaking or writing is constructing textual pieces with certain goals in interdependence with the context, right? So the discourse is always going to have a goal and objective, right? Entertain, inform, convince, argument, disprove, proof, counter-argument, describe, narrate, a lot of different goals, possibilities as infinite as you can imagine. But first of all, it's going to have like one particular objective, and then it is going to have interdependence with the context. And here we have 4 components that are really, really important. Yes, the linguistic component of discourse, the cognitive, the local, or the social culture. Okay, so in order to explain that, I'm going to use a word in Spanish. Yes, that is the word coche. Okay, so what do you need in order to understand this word? Yes, what is the linguistic component? Sorry, what is the linguistic component that you require to get this word? Well, it seems pretty evident and a little bit silly, but first of all, you require to know Spanish, right? So you require to know the Spanish language, but before that, even before that, you require to know the alphabet. Yes, so we share more or less the same alphabet if we extract a couple of letters or components, graphic representations. English and Spanish have the same alphabet, so you need to know that. You need to know how to speak Spanish. You You need to know the basics of grammar. You need to know the basics of pronunciation, of reading, writing, all these different things. So the linguistic component is going to be present in all the discourses. And by saying this, what I'm saying is that we have these four components of the discourse, but sometimes we have discourses that have only two or three or even one. Yes? But at least in order to have a discourse, we require to have a linguistic component, that is the one related to the language. Right? Now, try to think about a definition for this word. Okay? Come on, take some seconds to tell me a definition of it. Yeah? Now, if you answer really quickly, so probably you would say that a coche is a car, an automobile that is used to transport people from one place to another, or something like that, right? Now, some other people may have thought, no, this coche is like the stroller that is used to take babies from one place to another, and for transportation, for singing them lullabies, or anything else, right? So that is not linguistic anymore. Yes, the linguistic has to do with just getting the language and getting the word and maybe assigning some meaning to it. Yes, sure. But that second part, that definition, has to do more with the cognitive component. Yes. So either you know the first definition of automobile or the second definition of baby stroller, right? Or maybe you knew both of them, right? Because you know that probably coche is a little bit more European, like in Spanish, from the country, from Spain, yes, and in a more Argentina maybe, and on a more let's say local one, we have that one, yes. Now you can say that also the cognitive component related to coche is that you know the category of the word. For example, do you know that is, what sort of word is this? What is it? Yeah, sure, this is a noun. It is not an adjective, or it is not a verb. And in order to know that, you got this. Yes. Now let's imagine that you know this in a more specialized context. Yes. Let's imagine that you work in an automobile factory, and you are really aware of the components, the technical names of the engines, the technical names of the parts. Let's say, I don't have any idea about cars, but let's imagine that you know about the bolts, the mechanics, that you know the names of the little pieces, you know what must go together with what, everything that you can know about coche is going to amplify your knowledge about that. Yes? So we went from from recognizing the word in the linguistic component to provide a word, or let's say an ampler definition of what is coche because of your experience. Also, let's imagine that you're a baby stroller expert and you know all the parts and the brands and everything else, so you can add a lot of different things to the definition, plus the category of the word, plus any other thing that you can think about, right? Now, remember what I mentioned about these being known, let's say coche as car in Spain, or stroller, baby stroller over here. Well, that is a local component of the word coche, right? Because basically we are using that word, yes, in a particular context. So in order to know all the definitions, or to amplify the ideas about the word coche, so the local component of the discourse is going to help you to amplify that. Now, maybe you were born in Spain and you don't know anything about calling this a baby stroller, calling it a coche, so that component would be absent of your equation, right? Or maybe you were born over there, but you travel, or you read, or you know anything about Latin America or Colombia, and so you're able to amplify that. Now finally, we have a socio-cultural component. Yes? the social-cultural component of a coche is going to be something, for example, like the expression ir en coche. Yes? So, do you know what is that? Do you have any idea what is when somebody va en coche? Sure, that means that, for example, somebody is on a group work, and I don't know, there are 3 people, and there are only 2 people doing all the work, and paying the expenses and preparing everything and doing all, and then the 3rd person doesn't work, right? He or she doesn't really prepare the thing, and in the end, if the teacher is not so good, so probably everybody passes with the same grade, right? The teacher is a little bit better, so I don't know. We usually would look for possibilities in order to have an individual evaluation. But well, just lost in my thoughts. But well, that is ir en coche, right? When somebody puts little effort into what he or she does, but anyway, in the end, he or she gets like the reward or the positive, the positive consequence of whatever you did, right? Now, if you talk about ir en coche in different places, not everybody would understand that, because this has a social cultural component. Yes, social and cultural. The word itself, or in this case the expression ir en coche, has acquired a particular meaning, right? So hopefully we understand the 4 components. Yes, the linguistic has to do with getting to know the word, recognizing it, being able to speak the language enough in order to to understand what is it. Then the cognitive one has to do with the possibility of defining or adding knowledge, technical knowledge, academic knowledge, professional knowledge, whatever. Let's say also categories such as grammar categories and stuff like that. Then we have the local component that has to do with how the word or the expression or the discourse is interpreted or used in a particular locality, in a country, in a city, in a let's say academic environment or group of people. So it's different, to say a particular word, even if it's the same word in the classroom or in the office or in the bank or something like that. So a cartucho, yes, may be different in an office than in the military, right? And then we have the social, cultural component of discourse, that is the one in charge of, let's say, assigning some social or cultural meanings that are beyond the mere traditional definition. One more time, I want to emphasize that some discourses have the 4 components. Some may have 3, some may have 2, or minimum 1. Yes, but at least the one that we know minimum is the linguistic one, right? Very well. Finally, we have the fourth notion, that is, the goal is to construct ways of communication and representation for real on or imaginary worlds, right? So with the discourse, what we want to do is to communicate with other people, to communicate our ideas, to describe or represent our world, the world in which we live in, or we can imagine worlds. Yes, worlds that are pretty similar to ours, such as the ones that are presented in, I don't know, soap operas or non-fiction novels, yes, in which the environment is more or less the same that we see in our day-to-day life, or the way it was in the past, maybe. Or some other ones on imaginary worlds, so like the ones that we find in science fiction movies, in fantastic novels, in medieval TV series, what we find in, I don't know, everything that seems to be unrealistic somehow. Well, we can also represent that by means of the discourse. So hopefully Is it clear enough, this part? And based on this, we are going to do our first assignment, okay? So there are basically 4 things over here. We're going to do it in a short way. You're going to try to avoid even a whole paragraph. Yes, try to use, I don't know, a sentence, 2 sentences. Maybe the ones that may be longer are the number 3 and the number 4. But anyway, we're going to keep our maximum to 1 paragraph. Ideally, 2 sentences, 2 sentences. That's fine. Okay. So attention. Let's go to the slide number 7, and we are going to find this activity. Yes. Define the word fly. It only says fly over there. So think about your knowledge, what you have, what you can think of, and you're going to define that word. I'm going to ask you to please not use dictionaries or any external sources. You are going to define it with the knowledge that you have. Okay? Sure, you can go and search online and find a definition. But the idea of the example of the exercise is that you do it yourself. Okay? So define the word fly. The second one is translate and explain. Okay, so first of all, you need to translate, and then explain the word estrenar to a foreigner. Imagine that you have an American friend, a British friend, an Australian friend. I know you have an Australian friend. I don't know, somebody from a different country. And you're going to, first of all, translate, so you need to use a specific word or expression, and then you're going to explain the word estrenar to this guy. So he or she, you're going to say, hey, this is estrenar, this is the concept. Okay? Then, number 3, describe a regular Easter week in your hometown to a friend. So if you're from Ibagué, you're going to tell me normally what do you do in a regular, normal Easter week. So this means Semana Santa, right? Of course, this particular year is completely awkward for some people. But if there is a procession, if there's a celebration, if you eat something specific or something like that, so you include it into that description. Now, if you're from Ibagué, it may be one thing. If you're from Bogota, for example, so people sometimes go to Montserrat, let's say. That's it. If you are from Buga, so probably it's different. Yep. If you are from a small town or village in Tolima, that may be different as well. So you're going to do that. Please, I am asking you over here what let's say most of the people do, right? You may say, I know, I just stay at home because I don't believe in that. Okay, that's fine. But try to tell me like what the most of the people would do in your location over there. Okay, and you have to describe that to a friend. Okay, now I am going to be very specific about this part. Please write it in the vocabulary that you would write to a friend. Yes, in English, but in the way that you would communicate with a friend. The same in the number 2. I forgot to tell you that. So you're going to use that and use the words to explain it to a foreigner. Okay, so it means that you're going to write it into second person. Yes, like you have to do this, or hey, my friend in my hometown we do this or that. Okay, that's it. And finally, we have to explain the process that is necessary to install WhatsApp in a smartphone to your mom. Okay, so think about your mom. How old is she? Some have pretty young moms, some other ones a little bit elder, and think about her skill with technology, and you're going to explain the process that is necessary to install WhatsApp in the smartphone. Imagine that she just bought a smartphone and you're going to do it. So for some of you, may be quite easy because maybe they are technologically advanced or aware, and some other maybe not so skilled with that. But that's what you're going to do. Same thing applies. Yes, remember you're talking to your mom, so depending on the relationship that you have with her, so it's going to be very informal and not too informal, or pretty informal or lovely, or impatient or whatever. Okay, that's it. So I took a long time to describe this, but actually the answer should be quite simple, quite short, right? So for the first one, you can just do it in two sentences, one sentence, I don't know, and the second one maybe two or three sentences, and probably the longest ones, as I mentioned, the number 3 and 4, but try to keep it short. Okay. Now, after you have done that, that shouldn't take you a lot. You are going to tell me what are the LCLS variables in each. What is that? Well, linguistic, cognitive, local, and or social cultural, right? So you're going to know to look for the linguistic ones that actually that is pretty much done. Yes, I'm going to give you like one example that will apply for everything. So the linguistic component applies knowing English, yes, and being able to understand the word and knowing that is a particular word. That's it. Yeah. And I don't know, to express the explanation of what's up to your mom, so you would know the language that your mom speaks, and being able to use an expository discourse or an expository intervention and have some sort of orality or etc. Right? So the linguistic part is already present in all of them. Yes, we know that all of them possess a linguistic component. Now, then you are going to verify if they do have or not the cognitive component, the local, and the social cultural. Okay. So in the end, it may be that you find that the number 1 has only the first one, and the number 2 has the first and the second, and the number 4 have all of them. Well, we don't know. That is part of your work. Okay. So hopefully the whole activity wouldn't take really long. It may be in a traditional Word page, maybe half of it, I guess. It really depends on you. Okay. So do not hesitate to let me know if you have any questions about this, and that's it for this lesson. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye. Hugs.